Recording is happening. Sorry, I just downloaded Zoom onto our brand new work computer today, so I'm still getting all the settings right. Another service we provide is a buddy program to pair permitted farmers with new farmers, and the Slack online hub for resource sharing and local policy updates. We have seasonal supply chain industry mixers and events for community and connection. Another way to stay in touch is to become a sponsor. If you are a local business looking to support the cannabis industry here in Nevada County, we'd love for you to join us. We are so grateful for our current sponsors who believe in the work that we do, and we could not do this work without you, so thank you so much. If you are interested in becoming a sponsor, you can email me. My email is Erin, ERIN, at nccannabisalliance.org, or you can visit our website, the sponsorship page on our website. I'm going to link all these things in the chat for you guys as well, so it'll be easy to click on them. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Nevada County Alliance. And then on Instagram, our handle is at Nevada County Alliance. We have a bi-monthly newsletter, which you can sign up on through our website that has policy updates, educational webinar information, and event information for you to check out. We have a couple of other Get Legit webinars coming up as well. We are packed for 2026 in January so far. Two of them notably are part two of the Cannabis Farming Basics for the Home Grower webinar series that we started in November. That's happening on January 8th, and it will include soil health, nutrition, and pest control. And the host, the presenter, Daniel Fink of Down Farms, will be presenting, and he is the go-to person to talk about and listen to when it comes to home growing. Part three will happen on March 5th, which is drying, curing, and storing your harvest. And I'll have more information on that later. Whether you're new to growing or want to sharpen your skills, this series is packed with insider knowledge for the home grower. I will link both of those registration links in the chat. The next one is Navigating Farm Transitions. This is tentatively happening on January 15th. We're still confirming the dates with one of the speakers, so stay tuned for updates in the webinar link to come. In this webinar, a panel of experts from the DCC, Nevada County, the CDFW, and the Central Valley Water Board will walk you through the process on how to properly and compliantly close your cannabis farm. And you can find all of our Get Legit webinars and links to register at nccannabisalliance.org/getlegit. And again, I will link to that in the chat. A quick shout out to our allied industry business sponsors. We have Ag Natural, Cramner Engineering, Plan Air Landscape Architecture, Humboldt Seed Company, Mr. B's Green Trees, Gold Coast Botanicals, and Elevation 2477. Thank you so much for your support, and we're so happy to have you on board. So we'll go ahead and start today's webinar. The format of today's webinar is that Lindsay Pratt will give us a presentation with a Q&A to follow if you do have questions. Your participation is encouraged. There's a chat section and Q&A for you to use, and feel free to ask any questions that you may have that will make this webinar more useful for everyone. This webinar is now being recorded, and it will be available on our website at nccannabisalliance.org under our Get Legit tab. I will link that in the chat as well. And I think that's it for now. I'll go ahead and pass it to Lindsay to introduce herself. Thanks for being here, Lindsay, and welcome.
Thanks, Erin. Thanks for inviting me to be here today. Yeah, my name is Lindsay Pratt, and I'm the Farm Institute Director at Sierra Harvest, which is a local nonprofit here in Nevada County. I'm going to share my screen. I'm new to public speaking-ish, and a joke I like to make is thanks for letting me practice with you all. So Erin invited me to join this webinar to talk about diversifying your cannabis farm with some lessons from Nevada County's traditional ag operations for modern cannabis farms. As I said, I work for Sierra Harvest. Our mission is to lay the foundation for a regional approach to food systems. We've been around for about 15 years. We started as a group of moms that wanted to change school meals here in Nevada County. And over the last 15 years, the organization evolved to support farmers to supply food to those improved school meals, and then the community through a variety of programs like food access initiatives, like Cal Fresh Market Match, gleaning, and other things. In 2024, we provided over 4,000 hours of garden education to K through 8th grade students at 12 different schools. We serve over 6,000 K through 8 students at many schools all over Western Nevada County through a variety of our farm to school programming, like farmer visits to classrooms, guest chef tasting days, harvest of the month tastings, etc. We had 113 campers at our summer camp at Food Love Farm in Nevada City, and we had 29 field trips to local farms in the area. And then under our community bucket, we gleaned, we had 82 gleans at farms and homesteads. So that's where we go out and we rescue what would be um, refuse or unharvested crops and then donate them to local food banks and food pantries. And then our farmer programs, which is what I'm the director of, in 2024, we provided almost 700 hours of farm education. We helped 4 farm businesses launch. We had 6 farmer to farmer mentorship pairs, and we helped farmers access almost $400,000 in grants through our grant coaching program. As the director of the Farm Institute, some of the programs that I help run are policy advocacy at the local, state, and federal levels. We're supporting the development of a local farmer cooperative of a group of mixed vegetable organic farms for them to pool resources and aggregate together. We offer organic certification support. We teach ag skills classes. We have our farmer to farmer mentorship program. We provide grant writing assistance and grant coaching. We have a land matching service. We have an annual field day event, which is a half day on farm workshop in partnership with the Community Alliance with Family Farmers. We offer direct marketing support, and then we collaborate extensively with local and regional partners like the Office of Economic Development, the Nevada County Ag Department, the Nevada County Resource Conservation District, Briar Patch Food Co-op, Variable Land Trust, and many others. And a little bit about me. I like to offer the caveat that I don't have a degree. I never graduated college. I went several times. My knowledge base comes from hard-earned lived experience in the food system. I have about 15 years experience managing organic produce departments, several years of working in farm to fork restaurants, and almost 10 years working on organic vegetable farms. I started farming in Central Texas, working on an organic farm that had a goat dairy. And then I moved up here in 2017 and I worked at First Rain Farm, Fog Dog Farm, River Hill Farm, and then supplemented work at other farms in the area. And I like to say that I've touched food literally from seed to fork. I've forklifted pallets of food off the back of trucks. I've worked in the dish pit at restaurants. I've worked in prep stations, and of course have seeded and harvested so many different kinds of crops. Um, my favorite crops to grow were fingerling potatoes, green onions, and carrots. I loved growing and harvesting them, like literally from beginning to end. It was my favorite process. Um, yeah, but just I'm a human and I'm always learning, so I don't know everything. I will share what I do know. I'd like to ground us a little bit into the context of the Nevada County ag landscape. Nevada County has like a really rich and robust agricultural history, and we're really grateful to live in a county that is highly invested in its agricultural sector, in its farmers, in its ranchers, etc. And I'm a really big fan of communicating and understanding and sharing with people the economic multiplier effect of local economies, especially local agricultural economies. So last year, in 2024, according to the Nevada County Annual Crop Report, for every dollar in direct economic output of the agricultural sector, 30 cents is induced indirectly. So for every dollar spent in the local agricultural economy, that it creates 30 cents of additional economic activity. In 2024, this means that the $39.85 million in agricultural production value it generated another 11.95 million in spending from ag employees, suppliers, and other businesses. This means that Nevada County's agriculture economy generated a total of $51.8 million, and that's amazing for a small county. In 2024, the combined industries shown here on the slide created a 28.5 million, and that's a little bit down from what I said before, the 39.85. The 39.85 also includes cannabis. This 28.5 does not. But it is a good indicator of what are the bigger sectors in our agricultural economy, with livestock being the highest. And in the livestock economy here in our county, the majority of that is calf cow operations where ranchers raise calves to be sold to auction out of the county. Pasture and rangeland being the second, and then notably other fruits and vegetables being a really large economy here. I think people kind of take for granted or don't quite understand how much local vegetable and fruit production is a big weight in our local agricultural production sector, which is amazing because I primarily work with vegetable and fruit farmers. In 2024, the local population was about 100,000 people. We had 7,760 acres in farmland. We had 133,000 acres in grazing, and we have 349 registered farms. And those are some pretty good numbers, but the reality is that less than 4% of the value of food consumed in Nevada County is produced within the county. We need more producers. We need more people growing food, growing calories in our community for our community. And this is the huge opportunity that I'd like to flag for farmers like you all. We both need more calorie production locally, but this represents a huge economic force that we could be capturing, both for your personal income needs, but for that economic multiplication effect that it can create for our community. But first, I kind of want to like ground us in the unsexy truths that come with food production if you're considering adding a food production element to your cannabis operation. Um, the lifestyle paycheck, I'm sure you know, like working the land, being your own boss, working outside are such huge benefits of being in a land-based operation. I have an office job now, but I deeply miss the kind of tired I felt at the end of the day of farming. So it is a huge draw, but at the end of the day, the lifestyle paycheck doesn't pay the bills and it doesn't keep a business sustainable or profitable. And so I work with a lot of people that are getting interested in starting their own farm operation, and I think I tend to see the romance of it obscure some of the unfun reality of it. The logistical labor to profit ratio is way higher in a food operation. For selling crops, working an orchard, you have to move literal tons of biomass to achieve the same payout compared to what you might achieve with selling dried flour. The perishable pressure in food production, your inventory is actively decomposing. It's dying as soon as you harvest it. Your post-harvest handling and your wash pack setup can be your most crucial and expensive investments in your operation. And mixed veg and small scale ranching are just physically more demanding for a longer duration. There's no real off season, especially if you have animals to feed or if you're trying to maximize your dollar per square foot opportunity in your field with like 30 different successions of different crops. There really is no downtime. Most of the vegetable farmers I work with, their downtime is now, and they're still harvesting out of their fields and dreaming of things slowing down. Food production requires like a practitioner mindset who possesses like a literal obsession with efficiency and micro efficiencies. Food farming is literally a game of inches. Where you place your harvest tubs, how many steps you take to access things in your field, how you turn your body during harvest activities, all of that costs pennies, and pennies add up when you're fighting for literal dollars for a margin. Um, and kind of related to that unsexy part, like you have to run your business like a business. I said before, like, I work with a lot of people that are a little bit swept up in the romance of I want to start my farm dream, but to make it work, to make the dollars pencil out, you have to run it like a business. You have to be able to articulate your theory about how you're going to sell your product, what your cost of production is, or how you're going to identify a price that makes your contribution, your sweat equity, your overall cost to maintain or improve the property. You're also going to need a standard bookkeeping system appropriate to the size of your operation. I took a tax and business workshop for farmers a little over a year ago, and the presenter, one of the guests said to the presenter, like, "Oh, I really like. It's probably a good idea to like keep track of all my spending and my bookkeeping." And the presenter was like, "Yeah, it's also a requirement." Um, You should you have to keep a regular review of your profit and loss and increase or decrease in asset value and adjustments to your business plan to reflect your lessons learned. And you have to keep acquiring and continually updating your knowledge. Farming is never static. I like to say, like, if you've seen one farm, you've seen one farm. You should always be adjusting and tweaking and learning and adapting because every year is different. Even a crop you've grown for 10 years will change year over year or even within a season, depending on so many different variables. Um, you should strive for a formalized entity structure, written tenure agreements, especially if you're leasing land, have a legally compliant employment base, and a business plan. A business plan can be informal, but it shows thought and direction, and especially if you're pursuing funding to support your operation, oftentimes a business plan and a lot of this type of documentation is required. And can you adequately articulate what's going on in your business? Like, do you have a grasp on why things aren't working or what challenges you're facing or what opportunities you are latching on to? Some of the scale and market considerations for adding a food-based enterprise like vineyards or orchards, vegetable production, small ranching, some of the things you want to consider. Um, the equipment that you typically use for a small cannabis operation is oftentimes too small for an orchard, but the next level up equipment that's more appropriate for bigger ag operations is oftentimes too expensive for a small farm or market garden. And that's why so many beginning farmers have a hard time even starting because the infrastructure cost up front is just so burdensome. Finding the right scale for diversification is tricky, especially here in the foothills. To be profitable in Nevada County, you have to be big enough to access good sales channels where you're not like piecemealing sales bit by bit, but small enough to manage without a 20-person crew year round. Scaling is a math problem, not just a planting goal. Every time you scale up in effort, then costs and needs also scale up with that. And so it's a fine dance that I'm sure you've also learned on your cannabis operations. And unfortunately, we'll never outprice a massive vegetable farm based in Davis or the Sacramento Valley. Your market considerations must be specialty and local. That really carries a lot of weight around here. Whether it's heritage tomatoes or terroir-driven wine grapes, your scale should be small enough to maintain premium quality, but large enough to meet the needs of a local grocery buyer or high-end restaurant. And as you're trialing and adapting and growing and scaling, it's important to remember that like you never want to go full-fledged on a new idea that's untested. A vineyard doesn't plant a new block until they know where those tons of grapes are going. We like to tell people in our workshop, sell it before you grow it. Have at least some sort of marketing plan before you're even putting things in the ground. Do your market research first. When I first started farming, I still hear this person's voice in my head saying this, but like a farm without a marketing plan is just a really expensive compost pile. Like, don't waste your time, effort, energy, and money without having, like, have a good plan. Um, and just some thoughts on infrastructure and systems. I know any farm, even cannabis operations, have their own needs with infrastructure to help keep the operation running smoothly, healthily, etc. Most vegetable farmers I know dream of the type of irrigation systems that you might have on your cannabis operation. You can translate those to manage crop production or a vineyard or an orchard, like leverage what you have already. A dry room is essentially a highly sophisticated humidity controlled room. During the off season for cannabis, that same space can be converted to a cold storage. Cool bots are a really easy way to install cold storage in rooms that weren't designed for that. Um, Traditional agricultural production relies on cover cropping and composting. The most important infrastructure you can build is your soil. Consider a large-scale composting system that turns your crop residue and food waste into next year's nitrogen. And don't build two farms. I see this happen even with farmers I work with. Um, think about everything on your land as one big system that support different revenue streams. So how can you use something that you would typically use in the peak season in the off season? How are you going to use that dry room as cold storage? If your infrastructure can't do double duty, it's essentially a liability, not an asset, or it's just an additional cost. And some of the key takeaways we've seen over the past 10 years of Sierra Harvest Farm Institute, um, we've noticed that successful farm and ranch businesses often have total gross sales well over $100,000 per season. They scale up rapidly within 3 to 5 years. They might start small, but in those 3 to 5 years, they get more land, they farm more of the land they hadn't had in production. They increase the amount of products they're selling, and they begin to sell increasingly valuable products. They make detailed plans and they stick to them through the season. They have employees. They sell things before they grow them. They keep great records, sales, expensive, production, harvest, farm activities. That's all good data for you. Like in the height of the busy season, if you're not taking good notes, are you going to remember what crop did best when you're sitting down to reflect in January and do your planning for the next year? And they're marketing all of the time and they're producing all of the time. Um, so I just kind of wanted to like explore some practical diversification strategies that you might consider for your cannabis operation. Um, Diversification shouldn't mean starting from scratch. It should mean leveraging the infrastructure, the water, and the soil prep you already have. We don't like duplication of efforts. Um, think about a perennial anchor. With a lot of the vegetable operations that our training services have helped start, I always try to encourage people to have what I call like a background perennial option, something that might take several years to establish, but once it is established, it's a high value crop. If you have a hillside acreage or well-drained soil, fruit and nut trees provide a long-term anchor for the property. Um, you likely already have and understand your different irrigation zones and integrated pest management. So your strategy might be to plant high value, low weight crops like pears, persimmons, or things like blueberries and blackberries. And this works because orchards provide natural windbreaks, beautify properties, provide high dollar per pound harvests, have a lot of potential for value-added products, and are relatively efficient compared to vegetable production. And there's an equipment overlap. Like, what are your irrigation systems like already? What fertilization systems are you already using? What are your irrigation zones? Like, where could you plant 200 blueberry shrubs in an area that you're either not utilizing or underutilizing? And how can you divide your irrigation system or use your fertilization to feed that new enterprise on your property? Because you're trying to diversify enterprises, but also when income is coming to you, you should consider something a short cycle cash flow, things that are quicker to grow and harvest, like culinary herbs and cut flowers. The management and post-harvest needs for things like this are pretty, readily familiar to those who've worked in cannabis and harvested cannabis. If you have a dry room, you have an herb drying facility. If you have a trim table, you have a bouquet prep station. And your strategy would be to grow lavender, rosemary, go to those specialty restaurants and see what herbs they regularly use. Or you could grow things like specialty zinnias and dahlias. I tell you, the wedding floral market in this county is huge. It's a huge opportunity. Um, and why it works, these types of crops thrive in the same nutrient-rich soil that you've likely already cultivated. And they can be sold at local farmers markets or to florists. Like I said, specialty restaurants that might want special or culinary herbs. And it can keep your name or your brand in the traditional ag market. And then equipment overlap. If you have drying racks, trellis netting, snips, a trim table, and a dry room, you have everything you need for harvesting things like this. And a soil builder opportunity is small scale ranching. Instead of buying expensive nitrogen inputs, let the animals do the work for you. Ranching is about land management over a long succession of time. The strategy would be to use sheep or chickens in a rotational grazing style in your current or future production zones or in your crop residue production zones. Sheep can manage fire-prone brush. They browse on invasives like the Himalayan blackberry and Scotch broom. They keep ladder fuels down, which your insurance adjuster will love if you're fire safe. And then chickens provide high quality, high nitrogen manure for your compost and your soils. And then what they provide you beyond the land management is, you could have eggs or you could have laying hens, you could have sheep for meat, or if you're into wool. And those are high value yields that you can process and sell directly to consumers, depending on how you're slaughtering and how you're selling them. And then with the equipment overlap, you probably already have fencing on your property. You probably already have great water storage. Um, and another opportunity, I hear about value-added products all the time, everywhere. It's a really awesome opportunity zone, potential for making a decent amount of money. There are a little bit more hurdles to navigate, but it's the next, I don't want to say frontier, but it's a big opportunity area. So don't just sell tomatoes or blueberries, sell them in a finished, higher dollar, higher value farm brand product. Use your expertise in branding and sales to sell this higher value product like hot sauces or jams or tomato sauce or salsa. Um, Use your property's other crops to create infused oils, dried herbal tea blends, or honey. And this works because it diversifies your revenue stream into general ag, which has, I mean, I want to say far fewer, but that asterisk is there for a reason, than cannabis. It builds a brand that people can find in a local grocery store, at the farmer's market, or I know like right now with Victorian Christmas, so many people I know are selling, handmade salves or infused oils at, booths out in the street where everyone's just ravenous for special gifts to give their family members. Um, and I have that asterisk there because there is a lot of opportunity to sell value-added products, but depending on the type of product it is, you will either be required to use a commercial kitchen or go through some of the cottage food regulations. Um, and yeah, I want to talk a little bit about our Farm Biz workshop, which is coming up at the end of January. It's a 6-week online business planning course for beginning farmers and ranchers. It starts January 29th. It runs for 6 Thursdays in the afternoon. And I call it Farm Business 101. We go over how to start and structure your farm or ranch business, how to build a cash flow calendar and a budget, exploring labor laws and funding opportunities and resources, talking about insurance and risk management, which no one likes to talk to, but no one likes to have to navigate it once they've had an issue and didn't have a plan. And then how to cultivate customers, choosing what products to offer and sell, and how to access sales channels. That starts Thursdays, January 29th, March through March 5th from 3 to 5:30 p.m. It's online over Zoom. It's $250 out of pocket, but if you attend 5 out of the 6 classes live as they air and complete a post-course evaluation, you'll get 200 of those dollars reimbursed to you. So essentially, it's only $50. And you can learn more at sierraharvest.org/farmbiz. And just an overview of that course so you know like what the topics are and like who some of the guest presenters are. We really focus on having real farmers who've lived it, who've struggled through it, come in and talk about how they've navigated starting their farmer ranch business, how they navigate bookkeeping or building their cash flow calendar, how they hire employees, how they manage employees, how they navigate labor. Um, we have the local produce man. We have Briar Patch's produce manager, David Benson, come talk about how they do a planning process with fruit and vegetable farmers so that those farmers are selling their product before it's grown. Insurance and risk management with Feeding Crane Farm, and then kind of analyzing your property and your personality to identify like what you should be producing. And I guess that's it. When I get nervous, I talk kind of fast. So, um, happy to do a Q&A, and you can also reach out to me at lindsay@sierraharvest.org. And I can leave this up so you can capture that email address. And yeah, Erin, I'm sorry I go fast.
No, that was great. You covered everything. I think it was perfect. That was awesome information. My favorite thing was a farm without a marketing plan is just a very expensive compost pile.
It's true.
Couldn't have said it better. That's very true. And I'll have to get that course information from you to share because I think that would be great for people that have attended and just to put on our Instagram and stuff like that. So we'll connect later about that. But are there any questions that anyone has for Lindsay about her presentation? You can either raise your hand and you can speak, or you can put your question in the chat, or you can put it in the Q&A box, whichever one works for you. But please ask questions if you have any. Well, there we go. Okay, is it Liza? Liza?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear
Hey,
me?
yeah, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Can we download this slideshow or is it accessible?
Um, Erin, I can email it to you if you want to send it out to the people who've joined, or I'm happy to share it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We
Wonderful.
could do it that way. This is also recorded and it will be available again on our website at nccannabisalliance.org/get legit. And I forgot to put those things in those links in the chat because we've had kind of an office mishap, and I apologize about that. But it'll be available on our YouTube channel there. But I will send everyone here a link to that presentation just so you can have it because it was chock full of great information.
Agreed. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a great presentation. And then anyone else have any questions? Any specific questions for Lindsay? All right. Hey, Sebastian. You're muted.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, right on. It's nice to see both of you. Lindsay, thank you for that awesome and inspiring presentation.
You're so
You,
welcome.
yeah, you food farmers are truly inspirational,
Oh, yeah.
coming definitely from a cannabis perspective. I think you guys, it's a lot harder work for sure. Couple questions.
Yeah.
Are there farmers looking for land? Like, is there potential for collaboration? You know, like with some of our farms, there's space available in the off season, you know, more or less over winter.
Yeah.
Free
Yeah.
spaces,
People are always looking for land. It's all situation dependent or situation specific. I'd love to learn more about what opportunities your people might have on offer or how we can collaborate more or get more information from each other and see what could shake out. But yes, I mean, land is the biggest challenge for any farmer right now. We've turned a sacred thing into a commodified thing, and maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. But yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then another part of that question, are there any short season like viable winter crops? You know, something that could be planted in the fall and harvested in the spring. And
Yeah, I always recommend like for short season, I like to recommend like the cut and come again type of harvests, like your arugula or salad mix. They grow really quickly. They're higher dollar per pound. You can usually get like 2 to 3 cuts out of a bed. So I'm going to use arugula. You sow arugula seed, you sow it pretty tightly with a seeder in your bed. It takes almost a month to get to harvest height. You cut it, and then in a couple more weeks, you come back and cut again. It grows a little bit slowlier as you lose light, but it's an easy, quicker, like I said, higher dollar thing you could grow in the fall and winter. Radishes, the Japanese market turnips. Those are those like quick succession crops.
awesome. Cool. Well, I'll follow up with you with some additional information.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
thanks, Sebastian. Awesome. Those are great questions. Anyone else have any questions while we still have some time?
My mom always says questions are the answers.
Yeah, come on, guys. Any questions? It'd be great. And if not, you can always follow up with me or Lindsay if there's a way, I guess at Lindsay at sierraharvest.org. If you have any follow-up questions that you think of later and you just didn't think of it now, that's a great way to get in contact. But if there are no other questions, I believe we can wrap up here. Lindsay, thank you so much for that awesome presentation and for joining us today. And thank you everyone here for joining us as well. Again, you can see the recording on nccannabisalliance.org /get legit, and it will take you to our YouTube channel where you can watch this recording at their time. And I will send you that presentation that Lindsay just covered. So thank you so much again, everyone. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you all. Thanks,
Yeah,
Erin, for
thanks,
having me.
Lindsay. Yeah, thanks, Lindsay. Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Take care.